The notification sound from my wife's laptop made me glance up from my breakfast. Katie had left it open on the kitchen counter that Tuesday morning, something she never did. For 6 years of marriage, she'd been meticulous about her privacy. Not suspicious, just organized. But there it sat, screen glowing, while she showered upstairs. I wasn't a snooper. Never had been. My parents raised me to respect boundaries, and Katie and I had built our relationship on trust. But the preview message floating on her screen stopped me mid-bite of toast. Last night was incredible. When can I see you again? The sender's name, Dylan Whitmore. My hand trembled as I set down my coffee. Dylan Whitmore worked at Katie's marketing firm. She'd mentioned him exactly twice in 3 months, once when he joined the team, once when he apparently made a decent presentation. Nothing that would have raised flags. Nothing that would have prepared me for those 10 words that just detonated my entire world. I stood there, frozen, listening to the shower running upstairs. The rational part of my brain scrambled for innocent explanations. Maybe it was a work thing. Maybe they'd closed a big account. Maybe incredible meant something totally professional, and I was jumping to conclusions like a paranoid husband. But my gut knew better. My name is Ryan Foster. I'm 32 years old, a civil engineer for a mid-sized firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've got a mortgage, a Labrador named Biscuit, and until approximately 45 seconds ago, I thought I had a solid marriage. Katie and I met in college, dated for 3 years, got engaged at her favorite restaurant, and built what I genuinely believed was a partnership. We weren't perfect, nobody is, but we talked, we laughed, we made plans for kids next year once her career stabilized. The shower shut off upstairs. I had maybe 5 minutes before she came down. 5 minutes to decide whether to confront her, ignore it, or do something I'd never imagined doing: investigate my own wife. My fingers moved before my brain could stop them. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of the laptop screen, making sure the message, timestamp, and sender were all visible. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. last night. I'd been asleep by 10:30, exhausted from a job site inspection that ran late. Katie had said she was staying up to finish a project proposal. Apparently, she'd finished something else entirely. I heard footsteps above me. Bathroom door opening. I stepped back from the laptop, returning to my seat at the kitchen table, forcing myself to pick up my coffee mug, even though my hands shook so badly I nearly spilled it. Katie appeared in the doorway wearing her navy blue work dress, the one I'd always loved on her. Her blonde hair was still damp, pulled back in the efficient ponytail she wore for client meetings. She looked like the woman I'd kissed goodbye 1,000 mornings. She looked like a stranger. "Morning, babe," she said, breezing past me to grab her laptop. She closed it without checking the screen, tucked it into her leather bag. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I managed. My voice sounded almost normal. "Big day at the site." She poured herself coffee, added the exact amount of cream she always did. Everything was so ordinary, so practiced. "I've got back-to-back meetings until 6. Don't wait on dinner for me." How many times had she said that in the past 3 months? How many late meetings had actually been late meetings? "Sure," I said. "No problem." She kissed my cheek, a quick, distracted peck that landed like a slap. Her perfume, the one I'd bought her for Christmas, made my stomach turn. Then she was out the door, heels clicking on the hardwood, car engine starting, gone. I sat there for 10 minutes, staring at my cold toast. Biscuit nuzzled my leg, sensing something wrong. Dogs always know. Finally, I pulled out my phone and looked at the screenshot again. The words hadn't changed. They weren't going to change. This was real. I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. My project manager, Jeff Brennan, didn't question it. I had enough credibility built up that one day wouldn't matter. What mattered was figuring out if my marriage was actually over or if I was overreacting to a single message. Deep down, I already knew the answer. You don't get messages like that from a colleague at midnight unless something's very wrong. I spent the next hour doing something I'd never thought I'd do, going through our phone records online. We had a shared account, so I had access. 3 months of statements showed a pattern I'd been too trusting, or too stupid, to notice. Calls to a number not saved in my contacts, always during her commute or lunch breaks. Dozens of them. The most recent was yesterday at 5:15 p.m., lasting 18 minutes. I cross-referenced the number through a reverse lookup site. Dylan Whitmore. Same guy. My hands were sweating. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was happening. This was actually happening. The text messages weren't accessible through the phone records, but I remembered Katie used to back up her phone to our shared computer in the home office. She'd stopped mentioning it, but maybe, just maybe, the automatic backup was still running. I went upstairs to the office, Biscuit trailing behind me. The computer took forever to boot up. When it finally did, I navigated to the backup files, hands shaking so badly I mistyped the password twice. There it was. Last backup, 3 days ago. I opened the message thread between Katie and Dylan Whitmore, and my marriage collapsed in real time. The message thread loaded, and I stopped breathing. Dylan. Can't stop thinking about you. Katie. Me too. This is crazy. Dylan. Crazy good, though. Katie. I know, but we have to be careful. Dylan. When can I see you again? Katie. Ryan has that site inspection Thursday, all day. Dylan. My place? Katie. Yes. I scrolled up. The thread went back 73 days. 73 days of thinking about you and can't wait and careful planning around my schedule, my site inspections, my business trips, my weekly poker nights with college friends. They'd been meticulous. No explicit photos. Katie was too smart for that. But the implications were clear enough in messages like, still smell you on my sheets, and next time bring that blue thing you mentioned. The blue thing. I knew exactly what she meant. The lingerie set I'd bought her for our anniversary in August. She'd worn it once, said it was beautiful, but not really her style. Apparently it was Dylan's style, just fine. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I set it down on the desk, stood up, walked to the bathroom, and vomited into the toilet. Biscuit followed me, pressing his nose against my leg while I knelt on the tile. Good boy, I managed. Good boy. I rinsed my mouth, splashed water on my face, and went back to the office. The phone sat there like a live grenade. I picked it up and kept reading. Katie. He asked again last night about starting a family. Dylan. What did you say? Katie. Same thing, next year. Need to figure this out first. Dylan. You going to tell him? Katie. I don't know, not yet. Maybe after the holidays. After the holidays, like she was planning to ask for a divorce the way someone might plan to switch cable providers. A minor inconvenience to be handled at a convenient time. I took screenshots of everything, methodically, numbering them in my head. Evidence. That's what this was now. Not my marriage, not my life. Evidence. The timestamps told their own story. Messages sent at 11:30 p.m. when she claimed to be finishing presentations. Lunch hours that stretched to 2 hours. That team-building workshop 2 weekends ago that required an overnight stay in Raleigh. I found the hotel confirmation in her email. The Marriott downtown. Room 847. Check-in. September 28th. Checkout. September 29th. She'd told me it was a Women in Marketing Leadership seminar. I'd encouraged her to go, said it would be good for her career. There was no seminar. I checked the Marriott's event calendar for that weekend. a dental conference, and a model train enthusiast convention. That was it. I sat there until 2:30 p.m. documenting everything. Phone records, messages, hotel confirmations, credit card statements showing charges at restaurants I'd never heard of. Dinner at Fahrenheit on a Tuesday. She'd said she was working late. Drinks at the punch room during a lunch break that lasted 3 hours. Our joint credit card. She'd been spending our money on her affair. I called my bank and opened a separate checking account, transferred half of our savings. Took 15 minutes. Then I called Brennan and told him I'd need the rest of the week off. Family emergency. He didn't ask questions. By 4:00 p.m., I had copies of everything stored in 3 places: a flash drive in my car, a cloud account Katie didn't know about, and emailed to my personal attorney Greg Palmer. Greg and I played racquetball twice a month. He specialized in family law. I'd always thought that was funny. Why would families need lawyers? Now I knew. His response came back in 10 minutes. Call me when you can. Don't confront her until we talk. I didn't call him. I knew what he'd say. Be smart, be strategic, protect yourself. All good advice that required me to keep pretending everything was fine. To kiss my wife goodnight while knowing she'd kissed Dylan Whitmore that morning. To make small talk about her day while knowing exactly how she'd spent it. I couldn't do it. Not tonight. Katie came home at 6:15 p.m. exactly when she'd said she would. I heard her car in the driveway, her keys in the door, her heels on the hardwood. Hey, babe, she called out. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. Conference call ran long. I was sitting at the kitchen table. Her laptop was in front of me, still open to Dylan's message. Her phone was beside it, my screenshots displayed on the screen. She walked into the kitchen, saw me, saw the devices, and stopped. The color drained from her face. Ryan. 73 days, I said. My voice sounded strange, flat. That's how long you've been sleeping with Dylan Whitmore. 73 days of lying to my face. I can explain. The Marriott in Raleigh, Fahrenheit restaurant, the blue lingerie I bought you for our anniversary. Which part would you like to explain first? She set her purse down slowly, like she was moving through water. How did you? You left your laptop open this morning. Dylan's message was right there. Last night was incredible. Except last night you were supposedly working on the Hendrick account proposal. Don't. I stood up. Don't insult me more than you already have. I found everything. The messages, the hotel receipts, the phone records. 3 months of sneaking around while I was planning our future. While I was talking about starting a family with you. Tears started running down her face. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen, repeatedly. In our bed? She flinched. No, never here. Well, that's something. Very considerate of you. The sarcasm felt like acid in my mouth. Was it worth it? Was he worth throwing away 9 years? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made a choice. Every single time you met him, every lie you told me, every morning you kissed me goodbye and went to see him instead. Those were choices. She was crying harder now, mascara running down her cheeks. I love you. Stop. Just stop. I picked up her phone and laptop, handed them to her. I've documented everything. My attorney has copies. I'm filing for divorce. Ryan, please. I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow I'll come back and get some things. I want you to find somewhere else to be when I do. Your parents, Dylan's place, I don't care, but I don't want to see you. We can work through this. No, we can't. I grabbed my keys off the counter. Biscuit was already at my side, sensing something was wrong. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the house and everything else. Don't do this. I didn't do this. You did. I headed for the door, Biscuit following. I loved you. I trusted you completely. And you threw it away for some guy you've known for 3 months. I made it to my car before the shaking started again. Got Biscuit in the back seat, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway while Katie stood in the doorway, still crying. I drove to the Hampton Inn near the airport, got a room that allowed dogs, and sat on the bed staring at nothing while Biscuit rested his head on my lap. My phone buzzed. Katie. I blocked her number. It buzzed again. Her mother. Blocked. Then her sister. Blocked. Greg Palmer called at 9 p.m. I answered. You confronted her, he said. Yeah. I told you to wait. I know, he sighed. Okay, done is done. Tell me exactly what you said. I walked him through it. He listened without interrupting. Good, he said when I finished. You didn't threaten her, didn't touch her, just presented facts and left. That's fine. Better than fine, actually. Shows you were in control. I don't feel in control. Nobody does in your situation. But legally, you handled it well. The documentation you sent me is solid. North Carolina allows fault-based divorce. Adultery is grounds. With this evidence, we can push for a favorable settlement. I don't care about the money. You will. Trust me, you will. For now, just sit tight. Don't contact her. Don't go back to the house without calling me first. Let her panic a little. Let her wonder what you're going to do next. I hung up and lay back on the hotel bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling. Biscuit curled up beside me, his warmth the only thing that felt real. The hotel room smelled like industrial-strength cleaning solution and stale air conditioning. I sat on the edge of the bed with Biscuit's head in my lap, staring at my phone as it lit up again and again. Katie's mother, Katie's sister. Katie herself, calling from different numbers now that I'd blocked her primary line. I powered the phone off entirely. Greg had texted earlier. Don't talk to anyone. Not her family, not mutual friends, nobody. Radio silence until we file. The filing would happen Friday morning, 3 days away. Greg's paralegal was preparing everything. The adultery-based fault divorce complaint, the temporary restraining order on joint assets, the motion for exclusive possession of the marital home. North Carolina was one of the few states where adultery still mattered in court, where Katie's choices would have actual legal consequences. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt hollowed out. Wednesday morning, I went to work. Showed up at 7:30 like always, grabbed coffee from the break room, reviewed the structural calculations for the Pineville Overpass project. My hands only shook a little. Around 10, my desk phone rang. Internal extension. Ryan, it's Beth from HR. Do you have a minute to come down? My stomach dropped. Sure, be right there. Beth Morgan had been with the company for 15 years, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd seen everything. She gestured to the chair across from her desk as I entered. Close the door, please. I did. I received a call this morning from Katie Foster. Your wife. Heat flooded my face. What did she want? She said you've been under extreme stress, that you left home suddenly, and she's concerned about your mental state. Beth's expression remained neutral. She asked if we'd noticed any changes in your behavior or work performance. Jesus Christ. I told her that personnel matters are confidential and that I couldn't discuss your employment with her. Beth folded her hands on her desk. But I need to ask, is everything all right? Do you need some personal time? I took a breath. My wife has been having an affair. I discovered it Tuesday morning. I'm filing for divorce Friday. I don't know what she's trying to accomplish with this. Beth's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry you're going through that. For the record, your work has been exemplary. There's been no change in performance, no concerns whatsoever. She paused. But if she calls again, I wanted you to be aware. Thank you for telling me. And Ryan, if you do need time off, we have options. Don't let this derail your career. I returned to my desk, jaw clenched. Katie was already trying to control the narrative, painting me as unstable. probably telling everyone who'd listened that I'd overreacted, that we'd had a fight, that I was being irrational. My phone, powered back on reluctantly, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ryan, this is Dylan. We need to talk. What happened between Katie and me was wrong, but you're making this worse than it needs to be. She loves you. She made a mistake. Don't throw away 6 years over one bad decision." I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I forwarded it to Greg with a single line. "Adding to the evidence file." Greg responded immediately. "Perfect. He's an idiot. Don't reply." I didn't. Thursday, I drove to the house while Katie was at work. Greg had advised me to document everything, to remove my personal belongings, to photograph the state of our shared property. I brought a friend from work, Todd Evans, a structural engineer who'd been with the firm since before I started, as a witness. "Man, this is rough," Todd said as we pulled into the driveway. "You holding up?" Day by day, the house looked exactly as I'd left it Tuesday morning. Katie's car was gone. She'd be at the office until at least 5. I unlocked the door and Biscuit bounded in, immediately checking all his favorite spots. Everything felt wrong. The couch where we'd watched movies, the kitchen table where we'd eaten 1,000 meals, the framed photos on the walls, our wedding, vacations, holidays with family. All of it contaminated now. I worked methodically, packed my clothes, my toiletries, my books, my grandfather's watch from the bedroom dresser, the camping gear from the garage. Todd helped carry boxes to my truck, not asking questions, just being present. In the home office, I photographed the desk, the filing cabinet, the bookshelf, everything in its place exactly as it had been. Then I packed my laptop, my external hard drives, the few items that were unquestionably mine. I left the wedding album on the kitchen counter. As we were loading the last box, my phone rang. "Katie." I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, the notification appeared. I played it on speaker so Todd could hear. Greg had said witnesses to her behavior would be valuable. "Ryan, please. I know you're at the house. The security system sent me an alert. Please don't do this. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want." Dylan meant nothing. It was just, "I don't know what I was thinking. Please just talk to me, please." Her voice cracked at the end. Real tears, probably. Katie had always been able to cry on command. Todd grimaced. "You want me to wait in the truck?" "No, let's just finish." We loaded the last boxes. I did a final walkthrough, Biscuit trailing behind me. In the bedroom, I noticed something I'd missed before. A men's cologne bottle on Katie's nightstand. Not mine. The brand she'd bought Dylan probably left out carelessly or deliberately. I couldn't tell which. I photographed it. Then I left, locking the door behind me. Friday morning arrived cold and gray. I met Greg at his office at 8:30. The conference room table was covered with documents, the divorce complaint, financial affidavits, asset inventories, the evidence binder we'd compiled. "You're sure about this?" Greg asked. "Once we file, there's no taking it back quietly." "I'm sure." "All right then." He slid the papers across the table. "Sign here, here, and here." My hand was steady as I wrote my name. Ryan Foster, petitioner. Divorcing Katie Ann Foster, respondent, on grounds of adultery. Greg's paralegal, a sharp woman named Jennifer Cole, took the signed documents. "I'll file these at the courthouse within the hour. She'll be served at her workplace this afternoon." Her workplace? Standard procedure for service of process. We could do it at home, but given that she works regular hours, the office is more reliable. Greg's expression was carefully neutral. It's not meant to embarrass her. It's just logistics. But it would embarrass her. Katie, who'd always been so concerned with appearances, with what people thought. Having a process server show up at her marketing firm, handing her divorce papers in front of her colleagues. in front of Dylan. I should have felt guilty about that. I didn't. There's one more thing, Greg said. I got a call from an attorney named Paul Brennan yesterday afternoon. He's representing Katie. He wanted to discuss settlement terms before any filing occurred. What did you tell him? That my client wasn't interested in settlement discussions at this time. Greg leaned back in his chair. He implied that Katie would be willing to accept a no-fault divorce, equal division of assets, no alimony, clean break, in exchange for you not filing on adultery grounds. She wants to avoid the public record. Exactly. Adultery-based divorce filings are public documents. Anyone can access them. It would follow her professionally, personally, indefinitely. I thought about that. About Katie's carefully curated image, her professional reputation, her social media presence where she posted about our perfect marriage, about how much it would cost her to have her affair documented in court records. What do you recommend? Greg shrugged. Depends what you want. If you want this over quickly and quietly, her offer isn't terrible. You'd get half of everything, no prolonged court battle, minimal legal fees. If you want her to face consequences for what she did, we file on adultery grounds and fight it out. Could take a year, could cost you $30,000 in legal fees, but she'd likely end up with less and it would be on the record permanently. I stared at the papers on the table, my signature still wet on the complaint. File it, I said. She made her choices. She can live with the consequences. Greg nodded slowly. All right then. Jennifer, proceed as planned. She left with the documents. I sat in the conference room for another hour, reviewing financial statements and asset lists with Greg, preparing for what came next. At 2:15, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You bastard. You had me served at work. Everyone saw. How could you do this to me? I showed it to Greg. Block the number, he said, and any others she tries. All communication goes through attorneys now. I blocked it. 3 minutes later, another unknown number. Ryan, please, I'm begging you. Don't do this. We can fix this. I love you. Block. Another. You're going to regret this. My lawyer says you're being vindictive and the judge will see that. Block. Save screenshots of all of these, Greg said. Shows a pattern of harassment. By 5 o'clock, Katie had tried to contact me from 7 different numbers. I'd blocked them all. The war had officially begun. The salon visit wasn't my idea. My sister Emma had been pushing me to do something about my appearance for weeks. You're free now, she'd said over coffee at her place in Plano. Stop looking like a guy who's waiting for his life to start again. I'd caught my reflection in her bathroom mirror that afternoon and saw what she meant. Gray had crept into my temples sometime during the divorce proceedings, and my hair had gotten shaggy. I looked tired, worn down. There's this place in Dallas I go to, Emma said. Ask for Vanessa. She's magic with color. So on a Saturday morning in late March, I drove to Reflection Salon in the Bishop Arts District. The place had exposed brick walls and Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling, that deliberately unfinished look that cost a fortune to achieve. A blonde woman in her early 30s greeted me at the desk. Ryan Foster? She smiled. I'm Vanessa. Emma's told me all about you. I wondered exactly what all about you meant. How much had my sister shared? Vanessa led me to a chair near the back. She had her hair pulled into a high ponytail, and when she moved, I caught the scent of something floral and expensive. She ran her fingers through my hair, examining it in the mirror. So we're thinking highlights to blend the gray, she asked. Give you that distinguished look without going full silver fox? Whatever you think, I said. I'm not great with this stuff, she laughed. It sounded practiced. Most guys aren't. That's why you have me. While she mixed the color in a small bowl, she kept up a steady stream of conversation. Where did I work? How long had I lived in Charlotte? Did I have any big plans for the weekend? I gave short answers. Civil engineer. 6 years. Not really. You're not much of a talker, are you? She started applying the color with a small brush, sectioning my hair with clips. Long week, I said. I get that. Saturdays are my favorite because I get to catch up with my regulars, you know? It's like therapy, but with better hair at the end. She paused, tilting her head. Plus, I had this amazing date night last night, so I'm still kind of floating. I made a non-committal sound. We did this thing where I got my own highlights done. Date night blonding, I call it. And then we went to this incredible Italian place in Deep Ellum. She was working methodically, painting thin strands. He's so sweet. Always waits in the car while I finish up here because he knows I like to keep my work and personal life separate. Something about the way she said it made my shoulders tense. That same tone Katie used to use when she'd mentioned Dylan in passing. Casual. Deliberately casual. Sounds nice, I said. Vanessa moved around to my other side, and I noticed her appointment book sitting on the counter next to her station. It was open to today's date, and the margins were covered in doodled hearts. Little ones, big ones, some with initials inside. The handwriting was loopy and feminine. It is nice, she continued. I mean, we have to be a little careful because, well, it's complicated. But when you know, right? The way she emphasized complicated made my stomach turn. She kept talking while she worked, about how she'd met this guy, how exciting it was, how she felt like a teenager again, sneaking around, keeping secrets. She said it all with this breathless quality, like she was sharing something precious. I watched her in the mirror. The way she smiled when she talked about him. The way her eyes went distant and dreamy. Does he have a name? I asked. This mystery man? Oh, I shouldn't say, she giggled. It's just, he's got a situation at home, you know? We're working through it. My hands gripped the armrests. A situation at home. She wrapped my hair in foil, section by section, still talking. About how patient he was. How understanding. How they had this connection that transcended the normal rules. Must be hard, I said quietly. For his wife. Vanessa's hands paused for just a second. It's not like that. She doesn't... I mean, they're basically roommates at this point. He's told me all about it. I'd heard those exact words before. From Katie, probably, in some conversation with Dylan that I'd never been privy to. The cheater's script was apparently universal. When she finished with the foil, she set a timer and gestured to the waiting area. 30 minutes. Want a water or coffee? I'm good. I sat in one of the leather chairs near the window and pulled out my phone. Through the glass, I could see the parking lot. A silver Audi was parked near the back, engine running. Someone sat in the driver's seat, but the angle and tint made it impossible to see who. Waiting in the car while she finished up? My phone buzzed. Emma, texting to ask how it was going. Fine, I typed back. Vanessa's very chatty. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, she's going through something right now. Be nice to her. I stared at that message for a long time. The timer went off and Vanessa called me back to the chair. She rinsed out the color, shampooed, conditioned, then started cutting. The whole time she kept circling back to her mystery man. How he made her feel seen. How he understood her in ways no one else did. You're lucky, I said, watching her scissors work. That you found someone who makes you feel that way. I really am. She met my eyes in the mirror. Even if it's messy right now, I know it'll work out. It has to. The appointment book was still open on her counter. I could see hearts drawn around a time slot for next Saturday. 7 p.m. Date night blonding, written in the margin. When she finished, she spun my chair to face the mirror. The highlights did look good. natural. Like I'd spent time in the sun instead of in divorce court. "What do you think?" she asked. "It's great," I said. "Really great." I paid at the desk, left a standard tip, and walked to my car. The silver Audi was still there, idling. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw Vanessa walk out the front door, her ponytail swinging. She headed straight for the Audi. I drove back to Charlotte with my hands tight on the wheel. The apartment felt empty when I got home. Biscuit greeted me at the door, tail wagging, and I scratched behind his ears until he settled down. I couldn't stop thinking about Vanessa, about her breathless excitement, about that appointment book with its doodled hearts, about the man waiting in the car, about Katie. Something dark had taken root in my chest during those 30 minutes under the foil. A familiar anger, but sharper now, more focused. I'd spent months being the good guy, the victim who took the high road. I documented everything, filed the right paperwork, let my attorney handle it all properly. I'd been civilized. And here was this woman, giddy about her affair, drawing hearts in her appointment book like a teenager, completely oblivious to the damage she was causing to whoever was waiting at home for her mystery man. My phone sat on the kitchen counter. I picked it up and scrolled through my contacts until I found Emma's number. "Hey," she answered. "How'd the hair turn out?" "Good," I said. "Listen, about Vanessa. The thing she's going through. Is it what I think it is?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Ryan, don't. Is she seeing a married man? It's complicated." That's what she said. I moved to the window, looking out at nothing. Does his wife know? I don't know. Probably not. Look, it's not our business. It was my business, I said. 6 months ago, it was absolutely my business, and nobody thought to mention it to me either. Emma sighed. I know you're hurt. I know what Katie did was terrible, but taking it out on Vanessa isn't going to fix anything. I'm not taking anything out on anyone, I said. I'm just asking questions. Ryan. I'll talk to you later, Em. I ended the call. Biscuit watched me from his bed in the corner, head tilted. Dogs always know when something's wrong. I sat down at my laptop and opened a new browser window. Then I closed it, opened it again. What was I doing? I thought about Vanessa's smile, about her casual cruelty wrapped in romantic language, about the wife at home who probably had no idea her husband was idling in a salon parking lot every Saturday. I thought about Katie and Dylan and that hotel in Asheville. Then I thought about revenge and what it actually cost. My hands hovered over the keyboard for a long time before I finally started typing. I stared at the laptop screen, cursor blinking in the search bar. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The rational part of my brain, the engineer who calculated load-bearing capacities and stress points, knew this was a bad idea. I'd already paid my revenge tax. The divorce had cost me 18 months of my life, $30,000 in legal fees, and a chunk of my sanity. I'd gotten what I wanted. Katie's infidelity on public record, her reputation damaged at work, her attempt to claim alimony denied. I should close the laptop. Go to bed. Forget about Vanessa and her married boyfriend and the hearts she doodled while discussing her complicated situation. Instead, I typed, reverse phone, look up Texas. The man in the silver Audi had been visible for maybe 15 seconds. Dark hair, wedding ring, catching the Dallas sunlight, 40-something. Not much to work with. But Vanessa had been careless in other ways. Her appointment book sat on the counter during our entire conversation, hearts and initials visible. MR appeared 3 times next to evening slots. I pulled up the salon's website, clicked through to their booking system. Public access showed available appointments but not booked ones, standard privacy protection. But the contact page listed the salon's phone number, and beneath that, a business registration link. 30 minutes of searching Texas business records gave me what I needed. Lux Hair Studio, registered owner Vanessa Klein, business partner Bethany Wright. The salon's LLC filing included a business address that matched the strip mall location. I sat back. This was already further than I should have gone. My phone buzzed. Emma's name appeared on the screen. "How was the haircut?" she asked when I answered. "Fine." "Just fine? Vanessa's amazing. Did she do the highlights I suggested?" I glanced at my reflection in the laptop screen. The subtle highlights did look good, actually. Made me look younger, more put together. "Yeah, she did." "You sound weird." "What happened?" I told her. The whole thing. Vanessa's enthusiastic affair confessions, the hearts in the appointment book, the man in the Audi, my current late-night internet deep dive. Emma was quiet for a long moment. "Ryan, you need to stop." "I know." "Do you? Because it sounds like you're about to do something stupid." "She was so casual about it," I said. "Like ruining someone's marriage was just fun. A game." "She drew hearts, Emma, while telling a complete stranger about sneaking around with someone's husband. And that sucks, but it's not your problem. Some woman in Dallas has no idea her husband is not your problem." Emma's voice sharpened. "You're not a vigilante. You're a guy who got screwed over and is still angry about it. This isn't about helping some stranger. This is about you wanting to hurt someone the way you got hurt." The words landed like a slap. True, probably, but that didn't make Vanessa's behavior okay. "What if someone had told you?" Emma asked, softer now. "About Katie and Dylan. Would you have wanted to know?" "Yes." "Would you have believed them? Some random stranger calling to say your wife was cheating?" I thought about that. Probably not. I'd have thought they were crazy, or mistaken, or had some agenda. I'd have defended Katie, insisted they were wrong. "You would have investigated," Emma continued, "on your own terms, in your own time, just like you did. And that stranger's interference would have just made everything messier." She was right. I knew she was right. "Go to bed, Ryan. Delete whatever you've searched. Move on." We said goodbye. I looked at the open browser tabs, Texas business records, reverse lookup sites, the salon's Facebook page where I'd been about to start identifying regular commenters who might be the mysterious MR. I closed them all. Then I opened a new tab and pulled up my email. 3 days later, I was back in Charlotte, sitting in my apartment with Biscuit's head on my lap, when my phone rang. Unknown Dallas number. "Mr. Foster, this is Gerald Payne. I'm an attorney representing Lux Hair Studio." My stomach dropped. "Okay." "My client alleges that you've engaged in harassment and made threatening statements regarding her personal life. She's prepared to file a restraining order and pursue legal action if this continues." I sat up straight, dislodging Biscuit. "I haven't contacted her at all. She received an email 3 days ago from an anonymous account. The email contained detailed information about her private affairs and suggested that this information would be shared with relevant parties unless she reconsidered her life choices. The IP address traces back to your apartment complex." The email. The one I'd typed at 2 a.m. and immediately deleted without sending. Except I hadn't deleted it. I'd minimized it. And then I'd fallen asleep with my laptop open on the coffee table, where Biscuit had apparently stepped on the keyboard the next morning while I was in the shower. I'd found him sitting on the couch looking guilty, the laptop on the floor, screen dark. "I didn't send that," I said. "It was an accident. My dog." "Your dog sent a threatening email?" Put that way, it sounded insane. "I wrote it but didn't mean to send it. It was late, I was angry, I was venting, I deleted it. My client has the email, time-stamped, IP verified. Look, I'll apologize. I'll send a retraction. It was never supposed to. Mr. Foster, I'm going to be direct with you. My client is willing to let this go with a written apology and a signed agreement that you'll have no further contact with her or her business. But if you refuse, or if there's any additional contact, we'll pursue this aggressively. Texas takes cyberstalking seriously. Cyberstalking. The word made my chest tight. I'll sign whatever you want, I said. I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I'll email the agreement today. Sign and return within 48 hours. He hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling like an idiot. Biscuit looked up at me with his big brown eyes, tail wagging slightly, completely unaware he'd just made me a criminal. You're lucky you're cute, I muttered. The agreement arrived that afternoon. Standard non-contact language, mutual release of claims, confidentiality clause. I signed it, scanned it, sent it back within an hour. Then I deleted every search related to Vanessa, the salon, or Dallas. Cleared my browser history, emptied the trash. Emma called that evening. I heard? How? Vanessa called the salon where I go. Wanted to warn them about the unhinged client I'd referred. My stylist gave me a heads up. Great. Now my sister's reputation was involved too. I'm sorry, I said. Are you done now? With the revenge thing? I looked at Biscuit, who was chewing a toy and occasionally glancing at my laptop like it might produce treats. Yeah, I'm done. Good. Because I talked to Mom, I groaned. Emma, no. She wants you to come to Sunday dinner. She's worried. Says you haven't visited in 2 months. I've been busy. You've been hiding. Come to dinner. Meet some normal people. Remember what regular life looks like. I almost argued. But the apartment felt small suddenly, the walls too close. I'd been avoiding family gatherings since the divorce, unable to handle the pitying looks and careful questions. Fine, Sunday. And Ryan. Maybe think about talking to someone. Like, professionally. I don't need therapy. You just accidentally sicked your dog on a hairstylist via threatening email. You might need therapy. She had a point. After we hung up, I opened my laptop one more time. Not to search for anything. Just to look at the screensaver. A photo from 2 years ago, back when I thought my life was on track. Me and Katie at her company picnic, both smiling. I'd kept meaning to change it. I clicked through to settings and replaced it with a photo of Biscuit, tongue out, ears flopping, completely ridiculous and perfect. Then I closed the laptop and didn't open it again for 3 days. The email from Emma arrived 3 days after the family dinner, subject line, "Okay, so don't freak out." I was at my apartment in Charlotte, reviewing structural calculations for a bridge retrofit in Gastonia. The email preview made my stomach drop. Ryan, Vanessa from Reflections, just got fired. Her boss found out about the affair because the wife showed up at the salon yesterday making a scene. Threw coffee at her. Actual hot coffee. Vanessa's claiming you told the wife somehow, and she's threatening to sue you for violating the non-contact agreement. Her lawyer already called mine asking if we'd been in touch. I told him absolutely not. Please tell me you didn't do anything. I read it twice, my hands going cold. I hadn't done anything. The non-contact agreement I'd signed was crystal clear, and I'd followed it to the letter. No emails, no calls, no showing up at Reflections, no contact through third parties. I'd deleted every file related to Vanessa from my computer, cleared my browser history, removed the address from my GPS. I called Emma immediately. I didn't contact anyone, I said when she picked up. I haven't touched anything related to her since I signed that agreement. I believe you. Emma's voice was tight. But her lawyer's saying the timing is suspicious. The wife apparently knew specific details, the silver Audi, the Thursday appointments, even the hearts in the appointment book. My throat went dry. Those were details I'd seen. Details I'd mentioned in the unsent then accidentally sent email. The wife could have figured that out herself, I said. If she was already suspicious, that's what I told Vanessa's lawyer. He said they're investigating whether you hired someone to contact her on your behalf or if you used some anonymous tip method. Emma paused. Ryan, they're really reaching here, but they sound serious about it. I sat down at my kitchen table, Biscuit padding over to rest his head on my knee. I signed a legal agreement. I've honored it completely. They can investigate all they want. They won't find anything because there's nothing to find. Good. That's what I needed to hear. Emma's tone softened slightly. Her lawyer mentioned they might subpoena your phone and computer records if they pursue this. Let them. I meant it. My phone showed no calls to Vanessa, her salon, or any number associated with her. My computer had no recent searches related to her. I'd been meticulous about compliance precisely because I knew how badly I'd screwed up the first time. Okay, I'll tell my lawyer to tell her lawyer that you're willing to cooperate with any reasonable verification, but that you've had zero contact and zero involvement. Emma hesitated. The wife really did a number on her. Vanessa has second-degree burns on her shoulder and neck. She's pressing assault charges. I should have felt satisfaction. Some vindication that the woman who'd bragged about destroying someone's marriage was facing consequences. Instead, I just felt tired. That's not on me, I said quietly. I know. But Ryan... Emma stopped, choosing her words carefully. This whole situation, it's like the universe is throwing Katie back in your face over and over. First the salon thing triggers you, then this happens right after, and now you're getting dragged into someone else's mess again. She wasn't wrong. 18 months since I'd walked out of my house with Biscuit and a duffel bag, and I was still getting hit with shrapnel. I'm handling it, I said. Are you seeing that therapist I recommended? I have an appointment next week. It was true. I'd finally called Dr. Patricia Owens after the Vanessa incident, scheduled an intake session. Emma had been pushing therapy since the divorce finalized, but I'd resisted, convinced I could logic and discipline my way through the aftermath. The accidentally sent email had proved otherwise. Good. That's really good. Emma sounded genuinely relieved. I'll keep you posted if Vanessa's lawyer contacts mine again. In the meantime, don't delete anything from your devices. If they do subpoena records, you want to show you've got nothing to hide? We hung up, and I sat there staring at my laptop screen. The bridge calculations blurred into meaningless numbers. I opened my email and started a new message to Greg Palmer, my attorney. He'd handled the divorce and the Vanessa non-contact agreement. He'd need to know about this development. Greg, Emma just informed me that Vanessa Klein, the Dallas salon stylist from the non-contact agreement, was involved in an incident at her workplace and is now claiming I violated our agreement by somehow informing the other woman's wife about the affair. I have had zero contact with anyone related to this situation since signing the agreement. No calls, emails, messages, or third-party communications. I'm willing to provide phone and computer records if needed to verify compliance. Please advise on next steps. I hit send and leaned back in my chair. Biscuit whined softly, his brown eyes fixed on my face. Dogs always know when something's wrong. I scratched behind his ears, feeling the tension in my shoulders. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You think you're so smart hiding behind legal agreements? You ruined my life. I know it was you. I'm going to prove it. I took a screenshot, then blocked the number. Forwarded the screenshot to Greg with a one-line message. Received this 2:47 p.m. today from unknown number. Vanessa? His response came back in under a minute. Don't respond, don't block yet. Let her keep digging her hole, save everything. I unblocked the number. 3 more messages came through over the next hour. My lawyer says you can't touch me, but I know you're behind this. The wife knew things only you could have told her. I'm going to sue you for everything you have. I didn't respond to any of them. Just took screenshots, forwarded them to Greg, and watched Vanessa violate the spirit of the non-contact agreement while I maintained perfect compliance. By evening, Greg called. "She's making this very easy for us," he said without preamble. "Those texts establish that she's the one initiating contact, and they show a pattern of harassment. If her lawyer's smart, he'll tell her to shut up immediately. What if they actually try to claim I contacted the wife? Then they'll need to prove it, and they can't, because you didn't." Greg's tone was matter-of-fact. Worst case scenario, they subpoena your records, find nothing, and look like idiots. Best case, her lawyer realizes she's unhinged and drops the whole thing. And if the wife really did know specific details from my email? Greg was quiet for a moment. "The email that your dog sent." "Yes?" "Ryan, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." His voice shifted into the careful tone he used when we played racquetball, and he was about to ask if I'd really called the ball out. "Did Biscuit actually send that email, or did you send it and immediately regret it?" I looked at Biscuit, who was sprawled on the couch, completely oblivious to the chaos his pause had allegedly caused. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I was sitting there at 2 in the morning, furious, and I wrote this whole thing about exposing her. I never intended to send it. Then I got up to get water, and when I came back, it was sent." Biscuit was on the couch where my laptop had been. "But you didn't see him actually step on the keyboard?" "No." "And you were sleep-deprived and emotionally activated?" "Yes." Greg sighed. "Okay. Here's what matters legally. You sent an email. Accidentally or otherwise, you sent it. You faced consequences through the non-contact agreement. That chapter is closed. If Vanessa's affair partner's wife somehow obtained information from that email and acted on it, that's not your responsibility. You didn't contact her. You didn't hire anyone to contact her. You didn't post the information publicly. But if the email was sent to Vanessa, not to the wife, what happened after that is not your liability." Greg's tone was firm. "Stop trying to take responsibility for every domino that falls. You wrote an angry email in the middle of the night and it got sent. You paid for that mistake. Whatever else happened is not on you." 2 years later, I stood in my kitchen making coffee while Biscuit waited patiently by his empty bowl. The morning light came through the window at just the right angle, catching the highlights in my hair, still getting them done, though at a different salon now, by a quiet professional named Tom, who talked about sports and weather and nothing else. The legal threats from Vanessa had evaporated within 3 weeks. Her lawyer had apparently reviewed those text messages she'd sent me and advised her to drop everything immediately. I never heard from her again. I also never found out exactly how the wife had learned about the affair, and I'd stopped trying to figure it out. Greg was right. Not my responsibility, not my problem. The divorce from Katie had been finalized for over a year now. She'd married Dylan 6 months ago, according to Emma, who still occasionally provided updates I didn't ask for. They'd moved to Atlanta. I wish them well, in the abstract way you wish well to strangers whose lives no longer intersect with yours. Dr. Owens had helped me understand something important during our sessions. I'd been treating my anger like an engineering problem, something that could be solved through proper documentation and strategic action. But anger doesn't work that way. It's not a load-bearing wall you can reinforce or a stress fracture you can calculate. It's something you have to feel, process, and eventually let go. The revenge I'd wanted, needed even, had cost me more than the original betrayal in some ways. Legal fees, yes, but also time and energy and a piece of my faith in myself. I'd become someone I didn't recognize for a while there. Someone who wrote threatening emails at 2 in the morning and researched strangers' lives looking for ammunition. Whether Biscuit actually sent that email, or whether I did it in some fugue state of exhaustion and rage, I'd never know for certain. What I did know was that I'd been looking for a way to hurt someone the way I'd been hurt, and I'd found it. The fact that it backfired didn't make the impulse any nobler. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Still on for dinner Sunday? Mom's making pot roast." "I'll be there," I typed back. I'd been going to family dinners regularly now. Started dating again too, nothing serious yet. But I'd had coffee with a woman named Rachel who worked in the permit office downtown. She had an easy laugh and didn't ask about my past until the third date, and even then, she just listened and nodded and said, "That sounds really hard." It had been really hard. The thing about betrayal is that it changes your wiring. You start seeing threats everywhere, reading malice into innocent situations, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Katie's affair had turned me into someone suspicious and calculating. Someone who looked at a chatty hairstylist and immediately started plotting exposure and consequences. That wasn't who I wanted to be. Dr. Owens had asked me once, about 6 months into therapy, what would it mean to really forgive Katie? I'd said I didn't think I could. "I'm not asking if you can," she'd replied. "I'm asking what it would mean. What would change?" I'd thought about it for weeks. The answer, when it finally came, surprised me. Forgiving Katie meant accepting that she was human. Flawed, selfish, capable of tremendous cruelty, but human. It meant releasing the fantasy that there had been some version of our marriage that could have been saved if only I'd been different, better, more attentive. It meant acknowledging that sometimes people just make terrible choices, and those choices aren't about you. I hadn't forgiven her, not entirely. Maybe I never would. But I'd stopped letting her choices define my life. The apartment lease was up next month, and I'd been looking at houses. Small ones, manageable, with fenced yards for Biscuit. Starting over but not running away. There's a difference. I poured my coffee and sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop, opened my email. The usual work stuff, a message from my sister, a reminder about my racquetball game with Greg on Thursday, and one email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, amends. I almost deleted it. But something made me click. Ryan. You don't know me, but my name is Michelle Rivera. I was married to the man Vanessa Klein was seeing. I'm writing because I recently learned that you were blamed for informing me about their affair, and I wanted you to know that wasn't true. I found out on my own by checking his phone records and following him. I never received any information from you or anyone else. I'm sorry you were dragged into the aftermath of my confrontation with her. I hope you're doing well. Michelle. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back. Michelle. Thank you for reaching out. I'm glad you found out the truth, and I'm sorry for what you went through. I hope you're doing well too. Ryan. Short, simple, clean. I hit send and closed the laptop. Biscuit looked up at me, tail wagging, ready for his morning walk. I grabbed his leash from the hook by the door. Come on, buddy, let's go. We stepped out into the April morning, the air still cool but warming up, the dogwoods just starting to bloom along the street. Biscuit pulled toward his favorite route, the one that looped through the park and back around past the coffee shop where I sometimes stopped for a second cup. I thought about Michelle's email, about the fact that I really hadn't been responsible for exposing Vanessa's affair, about how I'd spent months carrying guilt for something I hadn't actually done, while simultaneously trying to avoid responsibility for things I had done. The human mind is a strange thing. A jogger passed us going the opposite direction, nodded a greeting. A normal moment on a normal morning. I'd forgotten what those felt like for a while there. Everything had been colored by anger and suspicion, and the constant low-grade anxiety that I was either the victim or the villain, never just a person. Dr. Owens had said something in our last session that stuck with me. Healing isn't about getting back to who you were before. That person doesn't exist anymore. Healing is about deciding who you want to be now. Who did I want to be? Not the guy who documented his wife's affair with forensic precision, though I didn't regret doing it. Not the guy who wrote angry emails at 2 in the morning, though I understood why I had. Not the guy who looked at every stranger's story and saw his own betrayal reflected back. I wanted to be someone who could trust again, carefully. Someone who could be hurt without becoming cruel. Someone who understood that most people are doing their best with limited information and flawed hearts. And that grace, real grace, means allowing for human failure without requiring revenge. Katie had taught me what betrayal looked like. The aftermath had taught me what I looked like when I let betrayal consume me. Neither lesson was pleasant, but both were probably necessary. Biscuit stopped to investigate a particularly interesting tree. I waited, holding the leash loosely, watching the morning traffic build on the street behind us. People heading to work, to school, to appointments and obligations and lives that had nothing to do with me. The world was so much bigger than my pain. That was the thing I'd forgotten during the worst of it, that my suffering, however acute, was just one small story in a city full of stories. Katie and Dylan were living their lives in Atlanta. Vanessa was presumably doing whatever Vanessa did. Michelle was rebuilding after her own betrayal. And I was here, walking my dog on a Tuesday morning, drinking decent coffee, making plans for Sunday dinner with my family. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was a life, and it was mine. We finished the loop and headed back toward the apartment. I had a meeting at 10 with a new client, a residential development that needed structural consultation. Normal work, good work. The kind of thing that reminded me I had value beyond my relationship status or my ability to document infidelity. As I unlocked the apartment door, my phone buzzed. Rachel, texting about weekend plans. There's a new Thai place in Noda. Want to try it Saturday? Sounds perfect, I typed back. And I meant it. The story of my marriage and divorce would always be part of my history. The anger, the betrayal, the revenge, all of it had happened, and I couldn't undo it. But I could choose what came next. I could choose to be someone who learned from pain without being defined by it. I fed Biscuit, refilled his water bowl, and grabbed my keys. Time to go to work. Time to build things instead of tearing them down. The moral, if there is one, isn't about trust or betrayal or revenge. It's simpler than that. You can't control what other people do. You can only control who you become in response. And becoming someone you're proud of, someone who can look in the mirror without flinching, that's harder than any revenge, and more worthwhile than any vindication. I locked the door behind me and headed for the parking lot, leaving the past where it belonged. Behind me.